So this is the Trauma Terrarium. I'm Brie. It's nice to meet you. Pleasure's all mine. Thank you so much for joining me today and clicking on this video. This is a safe place for us to pull our heads out of the sand and lick our wounds. Today we'll be discussing the meat and potatoes of the human psyche, childhood trauma. More specifically speaking, the effects of parentification on my adolescent mind and how I developed an avoidant leaning attachment style. So, general warning, today's topic might be sensitive to some. Um, viewer discretion advised. Disclaimer, I am not a medical professional. Any information provided is merely my own personal experience and research and is perspective versus perception based. Also, please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next chance for us to trauma bond. So, just to jump right in, when you think of your childhood, you might think of the warm embrace of a loved one or playing in a soft patch of dirt. One of my first memories is drinking maple syrup out of the bottle behind my bedroom door. But have you ever thought about the first negative belief you convinced yourself was true? And if you can trace it back, where does it come from? Can you list all the reasons why that belief is the furthest thing from the truth? To quote the cult classic film The Crow, Mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of all children. Innocent hearts and minds whom have a blank slate are most impressionable. It takes only one witnessed negative pattern for a seed of belief to be laid dormant until triggered by the shadow of the soul's light. The shadow aspect of consciousness is what projects those negative beliefs that we have convinced ourselves are true. When we walk in our caretaker's shadow as a child, we naturally shine light on their defects. Once triggered, it's then their choice to either learn and grow from this experience or retreat to old ways to defend their own pain held onto from years of generational preconditioning. The trauma we endure is not our fault. However, how we choose to alchemize our pain is our moral obligation and responsibility. So I want you to imagine a small kid version of yourself. Imagine yourself when you were the age you absorbed that negative belief about you or the world around you. Can you bring yourself to show up as the people who convinced you that you weren't worthy of basic needs like unconditional love, grace, empathy, and the space to be your unconditional self? Can you bring yourself to belittle, yell, or harm them? If not, what is stopping you from being the person your inner child needs? And can you bear the challenge to get down on your imaginary knees, to look that kid or teenage version of you in the eyes and tell them that they are perfect exactly as they are? Remind them that they are absolutely and without a doubt worthy of all beautiful, glorious things life has to offer. They are worthy of respect, kindness, forgiveness, security, safety, unconditional love. They are 100% worthy and deserving of having their needs met. Imagining them in your mind's eye as perfect as they are and have been, I want you to repeat after me. I promise I will always stand up for you. I will be the person that you need, and I will be there when you need them. As children, we tend to assimilate certain qualities, beliefs, ambitions, inhibitions, etc., passed down sometimes generation to generation, eventually taking them on as our own, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. These traits are orchestrated to us by our caretakers, most of which are unaware or not yet emotionally mature enough to realize or recognize the impact of their actions. This conditioning is due to relative, environmental, and personal aspects of life that are all subjective and unique to each individual. As we grow, we conform and strengthen our filter of discernment, allowing us to objectively review our adopted beliefs to harness them as a catalyst needed for direct personal change and development. We do this by defining the limiting beliefs that do not belong to us, recognizing that their roots are separate from the vessel that holds the soul, that they do not align with who we are at our core, and in turn assigning our own ways of thinking that support and enhance our individual existence in this life. We do this by using metaphysics and self-awareness as a baseline of mutual understanding. When we combine the two, we get spirituality. Becoming aware of our personal definitions is the first step to reprogramming our conscious and subconscious minds. Fortunately, our consciousness believes what we tell it is fact, without much questioning of relativity to our own personal reality. You can convince yourself of anything, and that's where our free will comes in, because where there's a will, there's a way. All of our thoughts, feelings, words, actions, habits, practices, cycles, patterns, etc., they all serve the purpose to aid in metamorphosis. They remind us of the aspects of self our higher mind desperately wants us to heal and integrate. When we focus too much on the pain and suffering of life, either directly or indirectly to us or other people, we are telling the universe that that is our preferred state. The universe will always reinforce our subconscious beliefs back to us in our day-to-day lives. The first step to change is recognizing that we have a choice in the matter. In order to change that we want, we need to hold the torch and light the way. We are a direct reflection of everything we choose to embody. If you don't think you have a choice in any and all things that you do, I'd like to remind you that that is also a conscious decision. By giving yourself grace and choosing to reinforce the positive dialogue that you aim to embody, new perspectives and beliefs about yourself and the world around you will automatically start to align with your soul's purpose, true purpose, and nature. Taking an unbiased approach while also reinforcing thoughts and feelings of unconditional love and forgiveness is crucial in integrating the light and dark aspects within. Remember, nothing has built-in meaning until we assign meaning or belief to it. This act of self-acceptance allows us to see the positive lessons hidden in plain sight. The universe has a funny way of inviting us to alchemize our pain and dis-ease into creation by looking at the past with new eyes. Imagine every time you thought about something triggering, you observed your thoughts objectively. You emotionally regulated yourself enough to recognize the root cause of the wound and forgave yourself for allowing it to affect your present moment. What kind of life would you be living if you could find gratitude in every moment, in every breath, in every beat of your heart? How much happier would you be if you were a little kinder to yourself? Please understand that this is 100% possible and you are 100% worthy of it in every way. To quote Bashar, channeled by Daryl Anka, you are all worthy. If you weren't, believe me, you would not exist, because creation does not make mistakes. Thus, if you exist, you belong. There's a reason why creation is not complete without you. Stop arguing about your worth, take it at its word. If you exist, you deserve to exist. And if you deserve to exist, you deserve to be who you are as fully as you possibly can. This is just simple logic. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, I had convinced myself I was going to die alone. We had just moved again for the 8th time. I was newly enrolled in a public district after leaving a small private Christian school. Like any young girl, I sought out and eventually obtained a diary that came with a cute little heart locket. Shortly after the morbid and cynical concept of my ultimate demise was acquired, I formed the conclusion that I would be so lonely when I grew older that I would have to pay people to talk to me. No one would want me, no one would want to hear what I had to say or bother to understand what it was that I was trying to get across. I felt lost, unseen, and unheard. I was always the I was always the new overly sensitive kid. I was undermined for not being able to hold back tears anytime someone was too critical or slightly aggressive. I was unknown to my peers whom had their sense of belonging weighted in elementary seniority. Mine, however, was never truly developed anywhere. I was unfamiliar. With a clenched jaw, I ventured through this new school for a total of 4 months. That fourth grade year, we moved twice, both in different districts. I was lucky enough to attend preschool with a fellow student in a neighboring fourth grade class. I didn't have much memory of her other than my what my I didn't have much memory of her other than what my mom had helped me formulate in my head. I say lucky because she was kind enough to invite me to her birthday party, even though neither one of us really knew each other. I arrive at a house that my adolescent brain can only fathom as a mansion. Once we are all settled in, her dad announces that they have an arcade in the basement. After playing, happily eating pizza and cake, and watching her open the hottest and latest gifts from all of her inherently wealthy friends, we start to wind down for the night. Among the winding, they decide to raid the birthday girl's closet to see what clothes would fit that they could take home to have. I wait for a moment to grab the first thing I see that I remotely like. I make my way to the ensuite bathroom to try on a pair of jeans I know will be too small, just to bring them back to the walk-in closet everyone is picking through. I felt out of place and uncomfortable around these people, in this place, and now in my skin. The night peaks dramatically with me storming down to the arcade basement to cry in peace. I was feeling hollow and empty inside from the lack of resources in my own life by comparison, along with the obvious feeling of displacement. I had become overstimulated and overwhelmed with a state of lack. These were very heavy emotions that I didn't know what to do with, and I couldn't seem to digest why our lives were so drastically different. My mom picks me up the next morning and we drive home. In the car, I fawn with suppressed disgust over the integrity of their household, both physically and structurally. Casually, I comment to my mom that while in conversation with the girl's parents over dinner, I said something along the lines of, "Wow, this house is so big. You guys must make a lot of money." My mom tells me that's not polite and not to say things like that. I can remember the slight shame that lingered from confessing something that I thought was sincere. Maybe next time I'll choose to keep quiet. I begin to confuse my hits of intuitive communication for shame and guilt. To me, I saw the perfect family. They were provided for, not struggling, communicating, not yelling, loving, not fighting. They seemed successful, safe, and secure, and this was a foreign concept to me. What is my family doing wrong? Unfortunately, this experience only intensified my feelings of ostracization with a relentless inner knowing that the dust would never settle enough to bury my head in it. There was a long stretch of time when I was a bystander to my parents' abuse and turmoil towards each other, oftentimes spilling into my life in unexpected ways. My father had a temper, and it took a lot more to calm him down than it took him to get going. I turned 7 in November before my brother was born. Life changed rapidly after March. This was a new chapter in our lives as a family, and I was, for the most part, happy to have him newly included. Granted, there would be an obvious adjustment. I was gentle and handled him with care. It wasn't a concern whether I was competent enough to know right from wrong, because I was morally sound enough not to hurt an infant out of spite or malice. I'm sure any 7 or 8-year-old has a general idea of what's expected. But there's a disillusioned veil of innocence and compulsive curiosity that can cloud sound presence and judgment. It's unfortunate that some adults have no self control and cannot see outside themselves or their anger in the heat of the moment, and their childlike behavior unironically forces blame and perpetuates the cycle of inner child suppression through discord. There was an incident with a new TV I had gotten for my birthday the year prior. This was a brand new replacement for the TV my dad took from me and pawned. At this time, he had his buddy Joe living with us. They bonded over a mutual love and appreciation for narcotics. It was common for my mom to feel compelled and responsible to be my father's emotional support when he couldn't handle himself. Naturally, in attempts to neutralize the chaos coming from outside her bedroom window, my mother tells me to watch my brother while she heads outside. In attempts to distract myself, I regrettably look over to my mom's nightstand. A few moments of muffled, distant arguing, and then boom, baby starts screaming. I look over, and my baby brother is on the floor. My stomach drops, and fear sets in as I scramble to pick him up. I suddenly realize it's my fault. In a panicked rage, they both come full throttle up the stairs to our apartment to meet me stunned, shocked, scared shitless. I'm unable to do anything other than sob, apologizing and pleading between tears that it was an accident. I quickly run to the corner that my father demanding that I stand in for hours. 3, 4, no, 5 hours, while I try to breathe through broken gasps. I explained to my mother that it was a while I try to breathe through broken gasps. I explained to my mother that it was an honest mistake. It happened in a split second. My mom tries to console me the best she can, but I can't seem to process my own overflowing emotions, let alone the reason for my punishment. All of a sudden, heavy, aggressive footsteps get closer to my bedroom door. Thud, 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 thud. My bedroom door swings open and fucking crash. Broken glass falls to the ground as my already shattered heart crumbles to dust. My brand new box TV with built-in DVD and VHS is met with the obliterating force of my father's hammer. There's no safety here, no comfort, no damage control, no emotional maturity or regulation, only wrath, apathy, silence, and then more screaming. Emotional detachment starts to occur effortlessly. I become numb to the shards of glass scattered on the floor coated in warm Labatt. I get used to my father's impulsive, reckless behavior as I watch him burn the last of our money to a crisp on the stove. And then to the nights my mother crying hopelessly, wondering if things will ever get better. But it cannot seem to numb myself to the disdainful, adverse, compulsive, combative reactions my father has to even the smallest triggers. So what was his excuse for his heinous act? He thought he heard me watching TV. Whether we recognize it or not, traumas and transgressions from the past can and will be pulled into the present moment if we tie them to our identity. When we refuse to let go of old suffering, we give it permission to haunt us and the people we love. If every action has an equal or opposite reaction, then it's our duty and responsibility to ourselves and everyone around us that we heal. It's imperative we master the act of self-regulation and reaction. By learning tools like emotional intelligence, presence, self-awareness, mindfulness, breathing techniques, meditation, vagus nerve reset exercises, etc. We can allow ourselves the space to digest even the hardest of situations so that we can respond and react accordingly for the highest good of all. To circle back around to my main point, between feeling isolated at home and at school and tiptoeing around eggshells, I had convinced myself no one would love me. I had convinced myself that I would grow old and die alone. So I wrote the local number for Quest in the back of my diary without knowing what it was for. Uh, I convinced myself that I would be so desperate for connection and validation that I would have to pay people to spend time with me, to talk to me. And if you're not familiar, I mean, Quest is like the singles, like telephone, and I was so little. Uh, excuse me. All right. Despite my best efforts to aid in my own discomfort, as a child, I learned that not only was it unsafe to voice my thoughts or feelings, but I would not be seen or heard regardless. If I complain about how I feel, it triggers them to feel bad, and then they inadvertently make me feel bad in return. It's then my moral obligation to try and ease some of their emotional discord. without the tools necessary to emotionally regulate, self-soothe, or communicate well enough to help themselves, I was there to help pick up some of the slack. Naturally, a fightier, flightier version of myself emerges. A fawning child who is compelled to pacify others anytime there's any change in mood, tone, or body language. A child who has grown hypervigilant to their surroundings, constantly waiting for the shoe to drop, knowing in an instant a once enjoyed day could turn into a living nightmare. As an adult, I've come to realize that this avoidant leaning attachment style caused me to push away the people that I love and care for in attempts to soothe my own subconscious fear of being vulnerable or subjecting myself to rejection, shame, or further suffering due to possible misunderstanding once I'm comfortable enough to openly express myself. Paradoxically, avoidant individuals long for the opportunity for vulnerability and connection through communication and intimacy, but struggle to trust others enough to fully open up, aiding in their already formed and worn masks that hide their true nature. This came from a seemingly lifelong sentence of people pleasing that I had been indoctrinated into. To now, to no fault of my parents, they had the same general idea of life as we knew it to be. Once I started recognizing that these deep rooted wounds from my childhood were wreaking havoc in my personal life, I had to make the decision to break the cycle. This is not at all a linear this is not at all a linear path. So while writing this, I took a quiz for attachment styles to see where I was on the spectrum. So my results were 20. So okay, I'll start with secure. Secure is 25.5%. Ambivalent, which is like anxious attachment, is 20.7. So that's where I was the lowest. Highest is avoidant, which is 29.7, and then disorganized 24.1. So mostly secure and avoidant. That's unfortunately where I lean to the most. So this is from Trauma Solutions website. It says when caregivers respond to our connection cues consistently and responsively, meeting our physical and emotional needs most of the time, we tend to develop a secure attachment. If, however, our caregivers ignore our needs, respond inconsistently, or behave in a scary manner, our attachment styles, our attachment systems adapt to the misattuned experience by developing an insecure attachment style. The avoidant attachment adaptation generally occurs when the primary caregiver is absent, unavailable, or is slow to respond to basic needs, including the range of a child's emotional needs. They may have left you to fend for yourself, expecting you to be independent, or reprimanding you for expressing your needs or emotions. One thing that my father used to tell me a lot as a child was, keep it up, I'll give you something to cry about. Yeah. The result is that the avoidantly attached child learns to repress or ignore needs and stop using attachment gestures or cues such as reaching out, asking for help, asking to be held, etc. These are often children who seem mature or grown up, appearing precocious or taking on responsibility for their own self-care at an early age, which is crazy because I always heard, like, the when people call kids an old soul and they're like, oh, you're just, wow, you fit right in. You know why? It's because they're putting their needs last. It's because they're catering to everybody else. Because they're reading the room so fucking hard. They're scanning because they're hyper vigilant. They're on edge 24/7. They're stuck in fight or flight constantly because they never know when somebody's gonna like flip out. It's just, anyways. Going right into hindsight, there we go. My childhood was a lot, to say the least. It affected my identity, my ambition, my communication, and confidence. I developed a lack of direction, self-worth, and balance within my internal and external environments. This reflects the internal and external dynamic within my parents and household growing up. Years of growing, learning, reflecting, and reconditioning, and well, here we are. So proud now, like in the transformation. I just love it. Um, Life is beautiful. We need to learn how to look on the bright side of every bad situation. So, anyways, I'm now 26 going on 27, but my soul feels like it has lived lifetimes in just this one. I've spent so much of my time wondering why it never slows down. And then I began to understand it's because I have a story to share. My story is one that I feel others will be able to relate to in ways that they may never have been able to before. And hey, even if you don't, the seeds that plant subconsciously through your kind listening ears allows my message to sprout with purpose, wisdom, and dignity. So thank you. I appreciate it. I have personally become determined on my spiritual mission to learn and understand as much as I possibly can about our inner and outer realities. I have broken open my ability to see as the observer and creator of my own story, and I am here to speak my truth. I am here to liberate the part of myself that was silenced. And it feels so good. It feels so good. I've had a blockage in my throat for months now, and it's funny because, like I said, um, this has been a year in the making, and I want, I want so much positive, drastic change in the world. And I know it's possible. And I know all it takes is for us as individuals to stop focusing so much on the world around us and start looking inside and start creating a peaceful atmosphere, creating a terrarium that you can love to be in, a place inside that you don't feel like you have to run from. I want you to feel safe within yourself. I want you to feel safe within your mind and your heart, and your body, feel grounded and secure. I think that we all have a lot to learn as a collective, and we're all making such huge waves, and anything is possible in this life. I promise, promise you that miracles happen every day. It's a if you fucking believe they do, they do. One thing I will tell you, jinxing only the only reason that jinxing things even works is because you believe it does. The only reason that a placebo works is because you believe that it does. If you can find a reason to believe in anything, you can make it factual. And the universe has no choice but to give you exactly that. So, my mission is to teach you guys, anybody who's listening, all the information that I've learned that has made me the happiest version of myself that I never thought was fucking possible. And I'm so excited. You are 100% able to single-handedly rewrite any and all negative perceived beliefs about yourself that you have adopted and in turn transform your life into one you have always dreamed to have. All you need is courage, unconditional love, gratitude, faith in the invisible or the unknown, and your authentic self. But are you willing? If you've made it to the end, thank you for being a witness to my humility and vulnerability. This this is a dream of mine, and I'm working through my own bits and struggles with vulnerability, with my avoidant attachment, and not not being able to ask for help because I feel like I have to depend on myself, and that's just not the case. There is help. Um, if you ask, you shall receive. You just have to learn how to get yourself out of the headspace that's telling you that you're not worthy of help because you are. You exist. That's the most beautiful thing that the most beautiful gift that you can receive in this life is existence itself. The fact that you exist is a fucking miracle. So give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself a hug. Seriously, like, give yourself a fucking hug, okay? Go look in the mirror and tell yourself you're the fucking man. You are the fucking bomb. You're fucking amazing. Hype yourself up. Talk to yourself. Talk to yourself like, okay, I didn't write this story out, but this is another one that I feel like is a good example, so I might as well just tell it. When I was in third grade, we had, what is that stupid thing called? We had track and field day. And I've always been a I've always been a chunkier kid, and I didn't have very good motivation when I was around that age. Like I didn't have that spark that a lot of other kids had, that like I've never been good with. I don't really give a fuck about competition. I don't, like, it's just not, why am I even in a race that I don't want to be in? Like, but it's also, I didn't have anybody there to cheer me on. And so when I think about stuff like that now, I'm thinking about who I want, like who I would want to be for her on the sidelines, like who I would want to show up. Like if I could say like, fuck you, like, cuz the hardest part about being in a dysfunctional family is growing up watching other people around you not be in dysfunctional families, and like their mom and dad just show up for stuff, like, or like, I they have money for yearbooks and stuff like that, or book fair. Um, but I think about every time I wasn't supported as a young kid, and every time I wish, it's not even about not being supported, it's every time I wish that I had been supported and not have been able to be that person. I wasn't able to be that person for myself in my head. I couldn't even be that adult version of myself in my head because I didn't know who that was supposed to be. The one in my head wasn't very positive, you know? And that's a huge story. I got a lot of, I got a lot of trauma. So it's exciting. But, oh shit. I imagine myself being that fucking, running alongside my inner child on that stupid oval track that's going up a hill, and I'm just fucking, yeah, man, like, you like it. Like, you have to be that person for yourself. If nobody else, who will? Because nobody else, eh, anybody that's willing, you need to keep in your life, because those are like angels. Um, I can't tell you how many lessons that I've learned, even just recently, with discernment and just like reading people and understanding what kind of energy they have attached to them and how it manifests and projects in other people's lives. And that's why nobody's opinion fucking matters. Nobody's opinion matters except for yours. You need to trust yourself, have your own discernment, think for yourself, follow your passions, but like don't allow other people to get in your head. Stop asking people for validation. Give it to yourself, because that's where it needs to come from. Stop asking people if you should. I used to all the time. It's giving your power away, man. And, like, I used to all the time not be able to make decisions for myself because uncertainty was such a common theme in my life. And if you've ever watched the Rick and Morty episode where Summer and Morty mess up the what is that called? They like split reality into like a bunch of pieces because of their uncertainty. So what happens is the more uncertain you are about something, the more parallel realities or options you have. So they split. And you can become very, very overwhelmed with that amount of like energy, because especially if you're not like if you're not in a state of mind to be able to work through it, to actually like come to a conclusion that you desire, uh, it's just it just keeps causing more uncertainty. So I used to give all my power away, make my decisions for me. And it was just like within the last year that I realized that I was perpetuating that in other relationships too, where uh that was the dynamic that I had before, but I'm incorporating it now into new ones and it's not turning out good. Like putting too much trust in other people, you need to have trust in yourself first. Anyways, I think that's it. I don't know if I have anything else to talk about right now. I have a lot of work to do with organizing other episodes. I do want to do separate different series. Um Daddy issues is gonna be the first one. I'm gonna build off of this. I have a lot of trauma from my childhood with my dad, but I want to do topics on emotional intelligence and emotional regulation, um, metaphysics. I have a lot of different theories. I think maybe I'll put those in just one video and then explain them. I think that would be a really nice series because I'm always thinking, I'm always philosophizing in my head. It's like a nonstop merry-go-round of thoughts. So I'm always like filing new thoughts away. Like the episode of SpongeBob, he doesn't know where to file it. The whole thing's on fire, except mine's doing a little bit better now. It's not on fire like that anymore. Um, but yeah, so I'll have to do that. I have a lot of useful theories that can help anybody just in their day-to-day life with being more self-aware. Um, so I'm really, really excited about that actually. Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning into the Trauma Terrarium, where together we take transgressions and we transmute them into triumph. There we go. I like that. All right, I'll catch you guys later. Who says that? Bye. Oh, that's Bailey's earring. I'm not gonna bite her style. It's a good intro. Or I mean, it's gonna be fun at it.